Okay, so I'm gonna walk you through what I have on my palette, the different paints that I'm using to paint the flowers. The first one that I use obviously a lot is the Holbein, and it's called Compose Rose. It's the perfect pink for roses, and I use this one very often on my pink flowers. And then I also have a Holbein in Brilliant Pink. When I'm painting flowers, I like to have 3 or 4 shades of the same color to build up the depth. So this is a really good one that goes with the Compose Rose. And then you can see here on my palette with the Brilliant Pink, I did make 3 tints with it using white to give me more depth and dimension, some more variety. And then that's the Compose Rose there at the top. And I also have the unbleached titanium from Liquitex, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite colors, and classic white, of course. I do have a version of yellow ochre. It's actually called Yellow Oxide by Blick, the studio acrylics. I don't recommend these. I always have to add gesso to it because it's like wallpaper paste, seriously. And then my favorite green, I just wish it was opaque, is the Holbein Greenish Yellow. I like to use 2 shades of green for my leaves. So this is my lighter green. And then my darker green is the olive. So that's gonna be right here. I don't know if you can tell the difference between those two in the video, but you'll see it when I'm painting. And then I have an orange, like a warm orange, because we're gonna do little berries. So they're gonna be the yellow ochre, and then I'm gonna accent them with orange. So those are all the colors on my palette. The tools that I'm gonna be using, I like to use this on my leaves. It's like a paint remover. So it's like a rubber tip, and then you can use it to draw the veins on the leaves. And then to do some of my detail work, I'm using a Posca black fine tip pen. And I think that's it for like paint and supplies and what's going on my palette. So let's roll our sleeves up and get started making those flowers. All right, guys, welcome to the studio. It's Janice. We are going to be painting some flowers, a crown of flowers on this cute little Frenchie that I painted. I kind of did everything else except for the flowers because I just wanted to do a demo on the flowers. If I had painted the whole thing live, we would have been here 4 or 5 hours. So that's how much time I've already got into it. But I have 3 flowers here and some leaves and then some little berries. So I do this set of leaves, flowers, and berries often. So I thought it would be fun to come on here and kind of give you a demo of how I actually do it. Let's see. When you're painting flowers, you're gonna start in the center, and the darkest part of the flower is gonna be in the center, and then like in the folds, in the creases. And when you paint with acrylic, you always start with your darkest colors first, and then you go to the lightest colors. So I'm gonna start with the darkest color, which is my Compose Rose. This one, I mixed a little bit of black into it, and I kind of faced the flower on the left facing that way and the flower on the right facing this way. So I'm gonna start by just literally getting the center and just smushing a little bit of paint kind of around it. And then I'm going to take the same color and do sort of the folds of the flower. So I did use a non-photo blue pencil to sketch out on my canvas my image. And I really like using a non-photo blue because it doesn't smear when you're painting or when you're working on the rest of your painting. And it's light, so your paint covers it. There's a little petal over there that I wanted to grab. And then make sure that you always have your brush nice and loaded. I've noticed one thing with students that I've been teaching, that they are afraid of loading the brush up. And don't be afraid of wasting paint or loading your brush to capacity, and seeing the difference between having a dry brush skidding across the canvas is no fun. All right, so I'm just gonna outline, like I said, the darkest parts of the flower, and a lot of this will be covered up between the second and third layer. So I know it looks kind of like thick and the lines are messy, but that's okay. It's gonna be taken care of. So the center is right here on this little one. So let's start there. And I like to leave a little bit of white too in the center because I'm gonna go back with some of the other colors that we have and add some dimension and depth with them. So just repeating that process on this side, and then I have to try to find where I put my petals, because a lot of times I'll draw a sketch and I'm like, is that a petal or is it a leaf? It's a mystery. Sometimes I take a picture of my sketch before I paint so that I can use it as a reference when I get to this point, if I've painted over any of my sketch, to see what I had intended. So sometimes I do that. All right, that's a leaf up there. I do know that. So I'm gonna leave that there. And that might have been a leaf. It was, and I painted over it, but I can add it a little bit lower. It's a white dog, so there's a lot of white space here. It was actually tricky to paint a white dog because, you know, white, you think you just painted all white, but you don't. You got to add a lot of taupe and brown and blacks, shadows and stuff. So this flower down here, I had facing that way. So I'm going to start with the center, just like we did the other two. And it looks like a crazy mess right now, but I promise it's going to come together. You have to really trust the process. It sounds so cliche, but there's always a point in a painting, whether it's flowers or whatever you're painting or creating, where you question if you're going to finish it or not because it looks crazy. And the answer is yes, finish it and then decide if you like it or not. Because 9 times out of 10, when I force myself to finish something, I'm so glad that I did because I love the results. And then I have 2 little leaves sticking out here. I did remember that, so I'm going to leave those. All right, so while that is kind of drying, I am going to start on the first layer of the leaves. Sorry, I'm just rinsing my brush here in my cup. And I'm going to grab some of the moss green, the darker green. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to start with my lighter green because I want to scratch the veins in the leaf and kind of set those veins in there. When I use the moss green over it, it will, you'll still be able to see the veins through it. So, all right, let's see. And this, the Holbein yellowish green, like I said, is one of my favorites. I didn't rinse my brush enough because there's still some pink on it. So I'm going to switch brushes. I just didn't want to make a lot of noises, tink noises on film. So I didn't clean it all the way. Anyway, the Holbein green that I'm using, because it's not opaque, it's like kind of forgiving. And then you can almost put these little lines in it if you see. I don't know if you guys can see that. But what I'm going to do now is use this kind of rubber painting tool and scratch like a vein into the leaf. And you can kind of see it forming there. I hope so. And then because it left a dent in there, when I do add the darker color, you'll still be able to see that vein, which is cool. And I don't know why I only put 1 leaf. I try to put them in 2s or 3s. So I'm going to add another one right here because sometimes you just look lonely. All right. And then I'll go ahead and add the vein on that one. I really like this tool with oil paint too. It really is a great asset when you're oil painting. I just recently discovered it. You can also use the butt end of your brush to do the same exact thing. And I did that for a long time before I found the tool. But of course, once I found the tool, I was like, oh, I have to have this. All right, let's get these 2 little fellas down here. But in my opinion, this yellowish green is the perfect shade of green on earth. It's green, besides polka dots, green is my favorite color. All right, so let's add the veins on these two real quick. Just scratching them away. It's kind of satisfying to do too, it's fun. All right, so the first step of the leaves are done. So what I'm gonna do next is, because this is almost dry, but I'm gonna do the little berries. And I like doing these berries on my flowers when I paint like flower scenes because they look like little polka dots. They're so cute. Hopefully I won't need 2 layers of this yellow. Like I said, it's the Blick Acrylic Studio, and it is so thick. It's like painting with Crisco. So I did add a little bit of clear gesso to it to kind of loosen it up and make it more buttery. And I didn't know if it would thin it out, but it doesn't look like it did. I probably only need 1 layer. All right, so I am going to finish these little dots. I don't know if you can see where I kind of have my outline, and I will be right back. I'm not going to bore you by showing you me painting tiny circles all over. I'll be right back. All right, so I got all of the little berries filled in, and I'll go back in a little bit and add a couple more layers to them, like an orange and then a white little highlight. I did want to mention too that the brushes that I'm using are just like all like Hobby Lobby and Joann's. I'm pretty rough on my acrylic brushes, so I don't spend a lot of money on them versus my watercolor. And when I paint my flowers, I always use flat brushes and in a variety of like 3 or 4 different widths. So I just wanted to mention that too. All right, so our main flowers are ready for their next color layer. So I'm gonna grab just the plain Compose Rose straight out of the tube. I didn't mix it with anything. And I'm gonna just kind of go around what the little areas that I already painted and just right next to those lines and just kind of fill in a little bit of the Compose Rose. There's not much of a difference in the color. It's just a little bit brighter. So I'm just going to put that at the base of everywhere and next to the little darker lines that I started with. And you can use those lines as your guide. I lost track of what flower is the right flower and what one is the left. When I'm painting like flowers in a vase or, you know, anything like that, I always try to put a little bit of dark green or something in between them to give them their own definition and their own space. But since this is like a little ring on her head, I figured they were probably like right next to each other. So I didn't put anything in between them to define their own spaces. So I lost track of where it starts and stops, but that's okay. All right, so that is the second layer on those two. Let's go over here and not forget about this little guy over here. I wasn't gonna put this one here. You wanna talk about happy accidents? But I was having such a hard time with her paw over here, looking just like the leg of the Michelin Man. I don't know, it was really weird. And I got so frustrated when I was sketching it. I walked away and then I came back and I thought, you know what? I'm not even gonna put that leg in there. And I took it out with a flower. Took her leg out with a flower. You know, it happens. All right, so just using those darker ones as my guide, going through and adding the Compose Rose color, the second darkest in our palette. All right, looks like a whole lot of craziness, but I promise you it will come together. Just want to bring some of these petals down closer to her. face. All right, rinse the brush, and then I'm gonna go for the Brilliant Pink straight out of the tube. And that one was the first, or the darkest color in the trio that I told you I mixed 3 shades of. Actually gonna wait for this to dry. So, change of plans. That layer has to dry. Completely forgot. Usually I use my dryer, but it's really loud and I'm not gonna do that right this minute. So what I will do is the berries are dry. I'll show you how I finish those. This is that warm orange. And when you do the berries, they don't have to be perfectly symmetrical because you'll drive yourself nuts trying to do that. But then I just go and I dot randomly in a really random fashion, just the second color on the berries. Not even like a highlight, it's just kind of a second color for dimension. So I'm gonna go finish filling those in. I will be right back. All right, so I did fill all the little berries in with the orange, and now I'm gonna start on the third color of the flowers, which is the Brilliant Pink. And then you're just repeating the same process. I'm gonna butt this color right up to the Compose Rose and just kind of forming those petals. And you see how you kind of go over some spots that you already painted, and that's okay. That's what the layering process is. That's what makes it, you know, gives it more depth and dimension. So don't be afraid to sort of paint over. I told you we were gonna lose some of that darkest color. So just going through, you don't have to leave much white left on here on this part. If you fill it all in, it's fine. So I'm just gonna go through and add that color. I'm home today, obviously, and Wasabi, I can hear him whining over there in his sleep. It's funny, he's talking in his sleep. It's cracking me up. I thought it was something outside at first, like a bird or something, but it's not. It's Wasabi. Wasabi is my cat. I didn't preface that by saying that. He is a spicy cat. We definitely named him the right name. All right, almost done with this layer. I'm kind of running out of the shell pink on my palette, and I'm kind of pushing it to see if I can finish without squeezing any more out. You know, sometimes I like to give myself little challenges. We're almost there, we're almost there. All right, I'm gonna go do the same thing over here. And a lot of times when I'm doing flowers, I will do multiple colors, like maybe a pink flower and a yellow or something. You can do the same exact technique that I'm doing with whatever color you want. You're just gonna need those 3 or 4 shades, and sometimes I throw in a completely different shade, like an orange inside of a pink flower, and give it, you know, even more depth and dimension, because in real life they have multiple shades. But you're gonna need 3 or 4 shades or tints of the same like color family, and that's pretty much it. It'll give you all of the flowers that you ever wanted in a garden. Can make yourself. All right, almost done with this layer, and then we'll work on the leaves a little bit. All right, starting to come together, look a little more composed. See if I can rinse my brush off all the way like a champ. All right, so I'm gonna do the darker green, the moss green, and I'm just doing it at the base of the leaves that is closest to the flowers, because it's almost like a shadow. It's like gonna be darker when it's closer to the petals. So it's gonna get in here and add a little bit of that. It's hard to not be able to move my painting when I'm filming, because when I'm painting on my own, I twist it all around like, you know, you would on a easel or something. But when I'm filming like this, I have to leave it in one spot, and it challenges me a little bit. It makes me move my hands in ways that I'm not used to when I'm painting. All right, there's that set, and then I'm gonna go do this set real quick. I like how this set of leaves turned out better, and inevitably that happens. You got your favorites. It usually happens with a flower too. I usually like one flower more than the other when it's all said and done. All right, so leaves are there. And let's see, what can we work on while the layer on that flower is drying? I think what I'm going to start is the little branches on the berries with my Posca pen. Oh, you know what I just noticed? There's a whole set of berries right here that I missed. So I'm going to go and color those real quick, and then we'll do the Posca pen. Okay, so I corrected that. Actually, I have to add the little orange spots, but you guys didn't tell me that I missed a spot. It happens, it happens. So let me just add the little orange fleck here, and that will dry. But in the meantime, the flowers did dry, but I'm still gonna do the Posca pen, and Posca pen is really cool. I like these. This is a 0.7, so it's the fine tip. Sometimes they cooperate with me, and sometimes I have been known to ruin a piece of artwork with them, but they are basically acrylic. So it works like that, but it's hard to get a fine tip chisel brush to do this kind of detail work. So I always just cheat, I guess, with a Posca pen. I don't know if that's cheating or not. I don't care. I'm gonna just live my life. Okay, so this little white branch I'm gonna leave. I kind of like them white too. And then I'm just gonna go around, and where I had the outline, just trace it. And I like how, I don't know, jaggedy and mismatched and stuff these little branches are. All right, let's do this one over here. And it dries pretty quick, but just be careful not to put your hand in it, like I have done a million times, and wet paint. And one over here. And this is the last guy, I think. Maybe I didn't miss anything again. All right, so those are done. And let's see, what else? All right, we can do the next layer on the flowers. So let me grab a brush real quick. And then the lighter layers that you go on this flower with this technique, the smaller width of a brush that you want to grab. So I'm going to do the lightest pink that I have on my palette, which is the Brilliant Pink just tinted with white. And literally the same thing that we've just been starting with is just layering on over those other colors that we have. And this is where you want to start filling in, if you have any white spots left, kind of filling it in so you don't see any of your canvas underneath. And just go with the direction of the petals that you think they might be growing or flowing. So you can really start to see it come together with this layer, in my opinion. And then when you add the white highlights, it just pops right off your canvas. I love, love, love painting flowers. It is not a subject that sells very well on its own when I paint them. But if I add them to something like this, like the dog, you know, this painting will sell pretty good. And but I just keep painting flowers. I don't care if it doesn't sell or not. I just love to do it. And I feel like, see, I like this one better than this one already. I feel like the more I paint them, the more I like to paint them and the more I want to paint them. But my family complains, like, you should paint something else besides flowers. And I just can't help myself. It was an accident. All right, almost done with this layer. And then we'll dry it and do the highlights. I try not to get a lot of the lighter color by the center of the flower. I try to leave that darker. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry and then I'm gonna show you how to do highlights and we'll be done. Okay, so I did want to show you how I do the highlight on the leaves. We do this in makeup too, where you put something white under it so that the next color will pop out. Because if I just added the yellowish green again, it won't make a difference. But if I put this white first and then paint over the white with the yellowish green, it will pop. Because the yellowish green, like I said, it's not opaque. We're not going to beat a dead horse, but I'm not happy that it's not opaque. But you can't have everything in life, right? I even tried to mix it with opaque paints, that color, and was going to save it in a jar. I can't even mix it. Yeah, so. All right, so you see how I just added a little white fleck to those 4 leaves, and then I'll let it dry, and then I'll go back over it with green in a second. All right, so the highlights on the flowers, you want to do it on the opposite side as the darkest color because the highlights will be on the opposite side to make it look more realistic. Although this isn't like a realistic, this is more impressionistic flowers. I don't really care to do realistic artwork because you can take a picture if you want to of something. But I like to see people's style. So I like to do more impressionistic work, and that's the kind of art that I like to look at as well. So just going through and adding the white highlights, and you want to be careful. I have a heavy hand with highlights, and that's not always a good thing. So you want to be careful to edit yourself and say, all right, that's enough. That's enough, Janice. All right, see if I can ruin this one even more. It's a special needs flower over here. That's okay. There's a lid for every pot, right? All right, so I'm ruining it even more by adding too many highlights. And that's the beauty of art. You can feel like you're ruining it, and then somebody else will really appreciate it. Most of the time, I complain because the pieces of artwork that I complete, that I love and adore, they don't sell and they don't get much attention. But the stuff that I'm like, meh, it's all right, and barely, I might not even post on social media or to sell on my site, sells in 10 minutes and everybody loves it. So I just don't know what the algorithm is. I'm trying to figure that out. If you know, let me know, email me, I'll send you a check. I am going to go back over this one a little bit with the deepest Compose Rose straight out of the tube. Just to, I don't know, it just looks wonky to me. See if I can correct her, straighten her out. And you can always do this no matter what. Just go back in with your darker color if you want and reinforce it. I feel like I lost my center here. I need to center myself. All right. I better quit while I'm ahead. And I think that's done. I think I would call that done. So this is my little doggy with the floral crown, and she looks like she's getting ready to take a nap is what I think is going to happen, and maybe I should too. So thanks for watching and spending the time with me. Just remember that everyone is born an artist. It's just that some of us have had more practice than others. And you may have ended your artistic career in kindergarten, but it's never too late to start again. Don't be afraid of making mistakes because that's why they make erasers. Have a good one, guys. Bye.